been taking a lot of energy in the US, where the US government had to begin to intervene. Some of them had to go into solar to save energy, because at the end of the day, you need energy to run technologies. But these are, of course, we don't need energy to run glasses, right? No, we don't. But I'm talking about the big energies that we're talking about blockchain here. I've seen experimentations with blockchain technology where sustainable sourcing is embedded into it. Because blockchain is one of those technologies that you cannot, it's inimitable. When there's an entry in the ledger in the blockchain, you cannot alter it. So companies are even experimenting with that, saying, okay, how do we trace where this material came from, and so that we know that this was sourced ethically or sourced from sustainable place. So this kind of technologies begin to, let me round up. So this kind of technologies enables the businesses that we have in the oil and gas, and even beyond that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I had to speak before my boss, so I'm sure if I had spoken before him, I would have spoken his done. So I'm sure so to acknowledge him and that I have to speak before you, but the kind of insights you brought in will give me a different perspective. A lot of learning from what we do. Okay, I'm a core technology person, and if I want to discuss technology from the industry perspective, I've had the privilege to work as an operator and also now working as a service provider. And I left Shell 10 years ago when we were actually deploying technology in the oil and gas industry. And I remember when we left, we were telling people that we want to digitize, we want to digitalize. We were struggling to understand the difference between digitalization and digitalization. And some persons even translate it to scanning of documents. So it means that we are giving this invoice for scanning of documents. So it's good to see the industry evolve now that people are asking us for things that our technology, our roadmap has not reached there. So I think it's really a good thing now that things are coming, and it helps to drive efficiency. So we are core technology. I want to look at in terms of energy consumption. We have a very strong mathematical modeling department. I think we boast of that where that enables our technology. And from a sustainability perspective, that's basically the goal. I think one of the IOCs actually approached us a couple of months ago to look at replacing one of their software. And as a reservoir engineer, if the forecast actually runs for one hour for 400 wells and 40 years forecast, it runs for over an hour. And if we brought it to us and we looked at it, we were able to use optimization principle to run that in 3 minutes and then 1 minute. That's actually from an optimization perspective. From a sustainability perspective, that basically gives you convert a forecast that runs for 1 hour to actually 1 minute. And in fact, we are still optimizing to run that in 10 seconds by actually using matrix optimization. As well, those basically elements of energy consumption. If what you're actually doing in 1 hour, in 10 hours, it reduces to actually 1 minute. That's a huge in sustainability. And also, we also have operations in terms of well reviews, technology that we do in-house. We develop our technology all in-house, in-country, by Nigerians in Nigeria, that carry out well review, do well review for 1 week, and then we'll 2 days, and we have technology that we'll be developing as our technology that will take us to, that we're able to take that to probably a couple of hours to do well review. And then we're also optimizing that. We discussed about blockchain. We are currently integrating blockchain in terms of enterprise transaction tracking in driving that. So that's basically what we need to do to drive a sustainable perspective. It goes beyond that. How are we also equipping and empowering people to actually drive technology and democratize that? I heard when he started his presentation, he discussed about digitization, democratization, and decarbonization. That's basically our own principle. And to look at that, we need to really equip and empower people. We have a mathematics library that we have actually developed for the past 20 years. I think I wrote the first code in that math library in 2005. That's 20 years ago. was actually working on a Fourier transform, able to transform production data from the time domain to frequency domain, so you can see some kind of a spectral characteristic around them. We put all these things together and we're producing it to Nigerian universities to actually use technology, use mathematical models in development, and that's basically strong capacity development. Because we look up in the oil and gas industry, to actually need technology. And technology in the oil and gas industry is actually embedded in the principle of applied and industrial mathematics, which is actually our strength. We develop our software, zero foreign technical partner, because we actually understand it. I've had the privilege to pursue of Shell to actually work in almost all the regions in the world, from US to China to Australia, leading optimization studies around it, driving that. So coming to look at that is something that we have both say that we've actually developed applications that actually matches those things. And that's basically elements of energy sustainability. Because if you can drive the quantum capacity development, you can actually drive the sustainability.
The floor goes to the second.
Should I go?
No, if it's acceptable.
I can go if you want me to go. I go. So what do you want? Again, perspectives will change. Again, I'm just trying to say what's next. All right, let me. Okay, then the extreme. Now, you go deeper, then I can probably try and put together.
Okay. I think very strong thesis from Management Tango around technology. I will look at it from a slightly different perspective, kind of complement. Because whereas the technologies and the models and tools that Tango refers to and blockchain, they're all very important. I think it's also important, it's also critical to look at this from asking the question, what are we trying to achieve? Who is starting, what are you trying to achieve? What capabilities are you trying to build? And depending on the context of the company, this capabilities could vary. But if I think about at the basic level, generic, I think that should be applicable to most concerns, especially in the industry, but even beyond. You think about safety, as I mentioned. You think about production, and that's where the cash comes. You think about costs, as you be competitive. You think about productivity of the people. So it's really about thinking about what safety metrics we want to achieve, right? It's zero harm, zero leaks, zero impact on the environment. So how does technology help you to do that? An example, wearables technology, where you can inspect, like you mentioned, you can inspect equipment from a distance. Or robotics, where robots can go into tanks instead of people in confined spaces. You talk about production. So production can break into multiple aspects. You have your development, scheduled. You have your well reservoir facility management. So in terms of development, for example, you want scheduled development, trips from equipment, compressors and pumps. We, for example, have been deploying, like Deepo mentioned, some of this technology is not really new. We've been deploying predictive maintenance, where you have machine learning algorithms that have been trained on the sound of turbines. And they can, depending on how the turbine is sounded, they can detect and say there's a fault coming. And so you can intervene ahead of time and avoid an unplanned shutdown. That helps you better plan your production, helps you minimize emissions as well, because once your turbine trips, your flare activates and you let out of fire. We come to cost. In our industry, it's a fungible, one. We all produce oil and gas. It's all the same oil and gas goes to the market. So one of the key competitive levers there is cost. How do you keep your costs low? And so how does technology help you do that? And that's where things like supply chain comes in. How do you just-in-time delivery? How do you minimize your working capital and your warehouse stocks? How do you deploy technology about creating visibility? Of course, productivity, a lot has been said about the ability to work remotely and hybrid ways. and how things like ChatGPT and Co are helping us to be more productive, to do things faster. So that's kind of lens I would like to look at the primary school education in the region. I'll leave it at that.
Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. So, for me, technology, and I mean, I couple with digital, everything, there's a stream that goes left to right, and a stream that goes right to left. So left to right is just the natural, organic development of technology. You have people in labs, these are driven by technologists, IT folks, just trying to solve every problem. But if you go from right to left, it's exactly what AR said. It is, what is the problem worth solving? Right? What are the business outcomes you're chasing? And I'll give a brief story. Between when I worked for AIR and when I worked for Sam, I think we all worked for Sam. Sorry. So I had a job where I was working at corporate headquarters and had the opportunity to be one of our pioneer digital technology business opportunities managers. So I showed up at a project and we had a certain budget, and we had burst beyond the budget and no one could understand why. And it was because all these talented, well-intentioned technologists had created multiple solutions without understanding what they were trying to solve. I remember someone brought this AI 3D printed bottle opener to our office to celebrate that we were able to print a bottle opener 3D. And me and my team, we looked, we were like, okay, so what? Right? So we were like, did you have a use case in mind? And the answer was no, but we're able to do this, and there was excitement. You know, and I think that small interaction probably killed half of the technology movement around, because there was people that were just trying to solve every problem without focusing on the value. So what we did is, again, like Gara said, we went through this, said, are we trying to improve safety? Are we trying to lower emissions? Are we trying to produce more oil? Are we trying to improve our compliance? Are we trying to save costs? And when you provide that lens, that business lens, it actually sharpens and accelerates the growth of technology, because you're solving something, then it becomes sustainable, and then you can do it repetitively, and you can stand in front of your management and say, this is what technology can do for you. Right? It's good that we mentioned Stavanger, because I studied a case there where they deployed a digital twin, and their use case was how to drive down their OPEX. And one of the biggest levers to drive down their OPEX was to reduce their heating bill. So what they did is they geotagged everybody, and they had a 3D representation of the facility. So when they saw folks move away from a certain area of the facility, they would turn off the heating. And in that, they managed to reduce their OPEX bill by 50%. And the use case is clear. We want to reduce OPEX. And to reduce OPEX, 1, 2, 3, 4 things. And how do we do that? Then you apply technology. So in all, it goes back to, I think, how we're trained. So I run into, in my capacity as a speaker for Lagos, I run into a lot of students that say they want to switch to IT, right? And I say no, because what you learn in IT will be applied to our industry, right? So first, stay with us as petroleum engineers, right? And maybe our schools could do a little bit more to infuse technology topics into the curriculum. But also, when you're done with that, then you can actually do your self-study or go and get a master's degree and understand the application of technology in petroleum engineering. That'll make you more dangerous. That'll be a subject matter expert that has broadened and picked up skills that can advance this. Right? Because if you let just the general technologists drive the momentum, it's just like you want to build a plane, but you haven't consulted pilots. You just brought in a whole bunch of mechanics. They will build something, but will you fly on it? Probably not. So it's the same thing. When we talk about technology, you also have to, you first have to come back to the problem worth solving in the industry. And that will be dictated and driven by industry professionals. So you consult your industry professionals, you have them step outside that role, go and lead the team of technologists, IT folks, come up with a solution, and it becomes sustainable. And you think about the impact of supply chain, I'll just say one last thing. If you know, like what Era said, if you know when your compressor is going to go bad, then your supply chain process can be optimized. You no longer have to have a warehouse with 10,000 valves that could go missing over time. You know, you don't need ability, and you don't need to pay the insurance that comes on. You know in 3 months you're going to need a valve. You have an understanding with the OEM, and you can optimize your supply chain in a way that you reduce your cost in terms of infrastructure. You reduce your cost because you're not having an emergency situation where you have to chopper things around. They come through regular low-cost transportation, and then you optimize the entire workflow, and you lower the temperature, because there's nothing as bad as your compressor going down, production is off, and the whole movement to restore. That's when you burn half of your OPEX because you want to get production back. But I'll stop here. Thank you.
It doesn't work, then that's technology at work. It's working. I would honestly like to honor all these gentlemen to my left and to my right. But I will start with Alaji Buka in the room. Alaji, please, if you don't mind, can you just let me give instruction for once? Can you stand? Thank you. When I talk about human race being a race of greatness, this is exactly what it is up here. I wasn't prepared for this embarrassment. But the gentlemen to my left and to my right, thank God, we are people, we were all colleagues. But then again, we are product of the human capital development that the Honorable Past Minister Don Tebe talked about when he spoke to us. Alaji handed over a baton to some of us at some point. We are all eggshell, by the way, so that is where the embarrassment is coming from. Alaji handed over the baton to some of us. Now, we had to hand over the baton to this gentleman, and then also they had handed over the baton to some other people. And the human race continues to grow. Thank you. Coming back to the subject of technology and supply chain, I would like to really underscore a few things. Again, I'm a man of first principles. First principles. I take it back home. First of all, if you look around you, everything about you and around you is all about technology, starting from the fabrics and the things you are wearing. So technology has been with us right from creation. But if I try to summarize what everybody has said, first, there has to be a purpose. And that purpose, now transformed, is a problem. There's a problem. So, you have a problem to solve. And the world we live in will pay dollar premium for solutions. So what happens? We invert the problem and then we create a solution. Every inverted problem is a solution. And that is why people pay for IT solutions. People pay for engineering solutions, architectural solutions, engineering solutions. Nobody will pay for engineering problem. Okay? So again, then my journey from a geologist to a business leader. At the moment, I will just stay with the end as a business leader. What my job is about making safe cash for my company. Our senior partner, thank you very much because you really highlighted it. We are all here to make money. We are in a business. It's not a charity. But in the course of making money, you then ask yourself, what is your motive? You can make money and make 10 people, 10 colleagues like this. You can make money and kill 10 people. So what do you really want to get out of it? So then, summarizing what they have said here, technology are in two parts. And then I said to myself, I'm a man of first principles. There are existing technologies today, and our job as business leaders is how do you then leverage those existing technologies today to make more cash, cheaper, faster, and safer. That is what I've heard from all of you. Now, thank God has actually now further inspired us that there is still scope. Things that he used to do in an hour, he brought it down to 10 minutes and is now looking for how to do it in seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, that is leveraging existing technology to make things cheaper, safer, and faster. Then, the second part of technology is around breaking new grounds. I want to get to where people have never gotten to before, new technology. So just put it in perspective. We are not talking anything in abstract science here. We're talking about things that already exist, and if you stay within existing technologies, then you can leverage the supply chain to see how to bring them in. And today with the globalization, you can even stay with your phone and just type in Google, this is my problem, where can I get solutions? And they will point you to China, Singapore, America, Norway, and anywhere and everywhere. And you can then begin to talk to people, they will give you their contacts, and then you reach out, put something in a ship, or in a flight, or in DHL, and it will arrive to you. Again, another technology. So again, what I would like us to really begin to think is, what is your purpose? What problem are you trying to solve? And then what do you leverage? Supply chain is just one element, but then there are a lot of leverages that you can actually drive on to ensure that you do your business cheaper, faster, and safer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, they say the big masquerade usually comes last. So it's for a reason then. But one thing I did note is that there was limited discussion about policy. So I just want to put this in there. Around 2010, I used to work for a Fortune 100 company, and even though I'm an engineer, I got posted like most multinationals to the government relations department. And I was in New York and then went to Washington, D.C. One of the things I found out in terms of how the Congress, the US Congress relates with industry was that for every particular industry, they have what you call Markets Day. On that Markets Day, they will invite CEOs and visible people within the industry, and they will have them talk to legislators about what is happening in the industry. So it's not an investigation, it's just industry people talking about what they are doing. The idea is that interactions will inform the legislators in terms of the kind of laws they should do, in terms of how they should interact with the industry. Because in the absence of that, legislators and those in government will be making laws in a vacuum, and their laws will not be relevant, in fact, maybe antagonistic to the realities of the industry. So, like Tengo said, there is that triple helix. There's academia, there's industry, and there's governance. It is the marriage of the three that leads to excellence. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 3 minutes more. I'm sure even if we give 30 seconds, it will not be enough for this. So it's been an exciting time being with you all, and we hope there will be future times and more than you. Thank you very much.
With me that the moderator did an amazing job. Can you give him a round of applause, please? So it's time for the questions, and auditors are confirmed. You can check your WhatsApp. The link to the questions is sent to your WhatsApp, so you will still read out the questions and direct it to the panelists you want to handle it. Let's take for like next 10 minutes. Can you give all of the panelists a round of applause, please? Amazing perspectives.
So there is David Kennedy, who 30 minutes ago sent this question. He says, what are the challenges hindering sustainable development in Nigeria's oil and gas sector, and what policies are needed to enhance what policies need to enhance to address these issues. So it's asking for policy initiatives that will help sustainability in the industry. Who wants to take on that?
Yeah, so let me just rephrase so that I understand the question very well. So the person is asking what policies do we need to enhance sustainable development in the oil and gas. Okay. Yeah, so honestly speaking, let me just say this. Nigeria is not really lacking policies. I think it's mostly the implementation of those policies. Let me give you an example, the Nigerian content, the NOGID Act 2010. I don't know whether some people know, but let me tell you this. NNPC actually started NCD. They were the pioneers of Nigerian content. They had a department dedicated to Nigerian content. And that was what led to the, after the NOGID Act was passed, most of the staff at the Nigerian content development and monitoring board were actually NNPC staff running that place up to the time when they had people, and experience was passed, and people started doing it. That is a policy that will bring billions of dollars worth of local content into Nigeria, not just in monetary terms, but also in terms of capacity. Now, we have, of course, the Nigerian NCDMB monitoring that, ensuring that that is being operationalized and implemented. But the truth is that we have situations where vendors, our own local vendors, will be awarded contracts so that they can implement it within Nigeria to benefit Nigerians. They will take that contract out of the country, execute it, bring it back as if they have actually done it themselves. So, government has done its own. They are trying their best to give these vendors, I'm not saying all, I'm just saying some few of them. So, the policy is there. In the oil and gas, I would say perhaps this is the biggest policy you could ever implement to develop local Nigerian capacity. And there are people actually within the system sabotaging. So I think maybe another way to look at it is not just the policy, but enforcement of that policy should be the key driver here. That's number one. Another thing I also think is important in the oil and gas, that is already there as well for enforcement, is the creation of, like the PTDF, for instance, is here. I mean, it is training, technology, professionals in the oil and gas mostly. I'm a product of PTDF. I did my master's in supply chain in Aberdeen in 2015. And this important. I believe PTF has been doing a good job in delivering that mandate. But we have the institutions, we have, like it says, the issue around policy, fit for purpose policies being enacted. Okay, let me give you an example. The Public Procurement Act 2007 that was enacted that will support the local, public procurement, or guide public procurement was implemented in 2007. But you see that the law is still, was not like, the law mandates that you have to submit physical hard copy bids. You can imagine if you have a bid like NFGC where we have bids that are coming hundreds. You can imagine you have to archive those bids for 10 years, how much paper it will require and all that. So they had made efforts to fine-tune it with industry experts as part of it.
Someone wanted to add some thoughts to it.
All right, thank you. Look, I sincerely agree with you on the fact that we are very heavily legislated in the country. We are not short of policies. I think where the problem starts is with the interpretation of the policies. PIA is a great example. And the way I challenge all of us in the room and across board is PIA is intended to unblock investment in country. Let's measure ourselves with the success, for the success of PIA, by how much of investment is coming into the country. PIA, but much more with the executive orders of the president in the last 1 year. And then the icing on the cake, I would say, is the current assemblage of pure technocrats to run our industry. I feel very proud, and I'm looking forward. My expectations are pretty high. So because again, when we get the right people, square pegs in square holes, then you will expect things to move in tandem. So we have a rare opportunity, ladies and gentlemen,